There are a lot of unanswered questions about the alleged 2014 child pornography case at the Charleston County School District. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down one-on-one with Charleston County School Board member Kevin Hollinshead. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Kevin Hollinshead, it's so good to see you again.
Hey, it's good to see you too, buddy.
I appreciate it greatly. Well, let me talk to you about the obvious. The Marvin Gambler's alleged child porn case. Obviously, that allegedly took place in 2014 when a Charleston County School District IT specialist found it on his work laptop. How did we get here with people still not having answers to some serious questions about this?
Well, Quintin, let me just say first of all, to the family of the victims and to the family of the accused, this is not an easy situation to relive. The district made some mistakes. There were a lot of unanswered questions. You know, we're in a situation where, you know, even though I wasn't on the board at the time, people that were, or people that were involved, or people that moved on, everybody's kind of pointing the finger. I think the concern of the pundits like Brother Shakim and his friends, Elvin and some other guys, and Nad, right. Reverend Johnson. Right. The information on Mr. Gather's got on Facebook somehow, his death certificate, and it'll put up a long question of, a particular disease that he passed away from. Most of the people got really, the ones that were agitated was like, the district seemed like they were very not compassionate enough about the incident that transpired at Dunston. Right. I heard the outcry. I live in that district. I see these people almost every day. Mr. Teddy Pryor and the Darby, you name it in that district, we're all connected in some form or fashion. And everybody asks questions. Even the ones who you did not think was asking about accountability. Right. So then there comes a question of, as a constituent based kind of person, I asked the community leaders, what do they feel that should have been done? Well, I asked for an external investigation. As you know, you read, I submitted to the board. Funny that I finally get to put things on the agenda, because for about a year and a half, every time I did try to put things on the agenda, the chair and her group would block me. But, election year, I finally add things to the agenda. But, got on the agenda, and next thing I know, Brother Shakim and his group did a press conference. Brother Lewis and those guys. And, they knew what I was doing, because, elected officials also knew what I was doing. I ran it by them. They thought it was a start. And what the initiative was to bring in independent team of investigators, lawyers, not a firm that the district normally uses, to make the community kind of feel good about, us. Okay, we pick a firm that's connected to the community. I myself want to use a Waller Curry, Mr. Curry Law Firm in North Charleston, along with another brother named Mr. Boykin out of the Columbia area. He was like the top African-American lawyer in the state of South Carolina. And he does work for the district now, but I want to team them together and be able to let them investigate and figure out what went wrong, how the measures can be corrected later so it doesn't happen again. to assure the community that we're on it and to find out what went wrong. Because some time had lapsed and you need your best to piece it together. And you did not want to put that, and I'm going to be honest, with a white firm, that next thing you know, you go back and then people have doubt. Well, you know, superintendent, I guess, preceded me, as the paper said. You know, I guess she did not hear from me, didn't call anybody within that district to get a pulse of what was going on. At least didn't call Chris Collins and myself. Didn't call people like Mr. Pryor or other individuals that touch folks in that community. She just went on and, you know, said, okay, Mr. Hollinshead put an ideal in there, I'm going to take it, I'm going to run with it. And they put it out there and then they grabbed the firm, which even when I talked to legislators in my community and across the county, basically said, well, Mr. Hollinshead, she might have the right to do it, but that was a bonehead move without her bringing it back to the board for a vote. So then we get into this power struggle thing. You know, you hear everybody saying they gave her too much power. And the Board of Trustees are an elected body by the citizens of Charleston County to do the county's bidding. There has to be a check and balance, Quintin. Has to be. But for some reason, they feel like they can just let her run, do her thing. But then, you know, as you know, and you've been here long enough, and you know our local Charleston people, right, when something blows up, then they're going to ask the board members, y'all are boneheads. Y'all are the governing body. Y'all just sit there like a bunch of puppets and don't think. And we have to be responsible. So that's where we were kind of at in that situation. And, you know, because of the disease, you know, the victims have rights. And you don't know there are other victims involved. You know, in Charleston now, let me just tell you, across the United States, you have the Catholic Church that have over 1,000 people that have child molestation. Now let's back it down a little bit into Charleston, the state of South Carolina. Portugal, remember, right, had an incident where they had 20 boys that made accusations they had been molested by one guy. When they found out, it was expanded to 50. 6 of the 20 committed suicide. At the Citadel, we had a molestation situation there. So you have to be very delicate on how you handle it, but you have to have a heart. And this is not what you call trying to be politically correct as the people that were around me. They weren't thinking about, well, what did Mr. Hollinshead or the other African Americans in the community of that community were thinking. Let's find out from them. They just wanted to wanted to try to be politically correct.
Where is the heart of the Charleston County School District right now?
I'm not saying they're bad people. They're confused. They want to be correct. They want to be politically correct. We're human. We're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. But, you know, my vast experience of being a law enforcement officer, you know, narcotics investigator, helped me understand where we're going. But I'm a person that I ask questions. You know, I go back to former officers I worked with, leaders, and to get input, and then I make my own rational decision. I don't sit there and think I know everything. And I trust my superintendent to be able to, if she respects her board members, to reach out and to talk to them and to see what's going on. But we have this divide because, you know, they're saying, well, Mr. Hollinshead wants to get rid of the superintendent. Mr. Hollinshead, they never said no such thing. But what Mr. Hollinshead wants is accountability. What Mr. Hollinshead wants, I represent these local people within Charleston County. And superintendents, as you know, come and go, Quintin. We had 3. I could count 5, but we had 3 come and go. I'm more inclined to make sure that we use local people. You know, in the pipeline of Charleston County School District. You know, we hire people from Horry County like just golly, like they're running with Horry County. But we do not hire or promote the people within our ranks. So you're telling the people that work here in Charleston County, that put time in, sweat equity, put their heart into it, you tell them, I don't believe in you. I don't believe in your education or what ability you put into our system here. I'm just going to go grab somebody somewhere else.
Let me get back to the Marvin Gabber's alleged child porn case. You are obviously a former law enforcement official. When you look at the details of this alleged case, why 34 days?
I honestly believe that we need an investigation from the Attorney General and SLED. I really do believe there's some criminal negligence, and I believe there's a cover-up. That's why, again, when I want the external investigation, I want those duly trusted guys to look into it, and if there was some criminal activity, some negligence, we reported to the Attorney General. We got to use a firm that normally works for the district. We got an African-American lawyer who can't even tell you where Montague Avenue is across the railroad tracks in Liberty Hill. No, that's where Dunston is. He don't live in our area, don't think in our area. I don't think brother eat fried chicken. Good guy. But he ain't like us. And we got to stop thinking that every African-American is black because he got black skin. So, you know, to answer your question, we have to look into the negligence aspect of it. Somebody dropped the ball. That was just too long for that to go on. That you didn't check up on this guy. You didn't check on the status of it. They put him out for a week or two and brought him back. No one didn't do check and balances on this particular guy. He should have been terminated right off the spot.
And if I were to pick up a Charleston County School Board employee handbook, how should I read the IT policy in your mind?
How should I read it?
Yeah.
Well, you know, that's something we have to explore, Quintin.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something, and what I want to do was to go back, we look at the facts, we see what happened, see where the chain of command was for him. I believe he reported, and I got to go back and look at that file, to law enforcement. But we got to make sure there was some follow-up behind that. Should have been some follow-up with HR. You know, I don't know if they truly understood what his violation was. We got to find out where that communication broke down at.
And I know obviously some people have questions for Dr. Nancy McGinley, who was superintendent at the time. Cindy Bonco's status says she was on the board at the time, but doesn't have any information about that. Didn't have any information from the board as well. I believe Chris Collins was on there as well as Michael Miller. Are there any other people that you're looking at that you want information from about this case? The district attorney, the HR officer?
I know where it lies at, and I'm not going to say right now. That's why I want the criminal investigation. I want people placed under oath and statements, because I know one person in that's in that district will tell. That's still there. It's sad, man. You know, and then as an African American, we in our area feel, or some folks feel, all children need to be treated with respect. You know, not just because they're in the Cooper River, or they're in West Ashley, or out in Hollywood, or Ondal. All children should be treated with respect. Again, look at the Portugal situation. Look how they jumped up on that when the accusation flew out. We should give this situation the attentiveness like that situation there. All kids need to be treated equally. It's about our children.
And also, for a footnote, Elizabeth Moffley was on the board, but she said she had no knowledge of this information, along with Cindy Boncoats and Chris Collins and Michael Miller.
Well, I beg the difference. I talked to Ms. Beverly Birch and other folks that used to be at those meetings. The district was ran by McGinley and Cindy Boncoats. She was the chair. And they said McGinley would not tell the board anything, which I believe, but Cindy and her had a relationship. before the watermelon incident. So, again, I think individuals need to be put under oath.
And we move from the Marvin Gevers alleged child porn case to Burke High School. Allegedly, they had some AC issues there. As we sit here right now, what can you share with the public about what's going on at Burke?
Well, as our operation director jumped on it and he's working to correct the situation, or got corrected. I think what happened was, while he explained it to us, the system was running half, not at full, because part of the system was down.
Okay.
But the complaints were like a number of 5 complaints before it got corrected. So you had people in there feeling uncomfortable during these hot summer days. And they were getting irritated. And again, that's a situation where, because of where it's geographically located at, if it had been somewhere else in the county and people had picked up the phone call, they would have been jumping around dancing. Because it was Burke, I guess it was kind of like, they were working on it, but they were like working on it slowly. But, it got out, it got corrected, and it's corrected now. But, we have to do a better service than everybody.
And how will the Charleston County School Board correct the future of Stonyfield?
Lord. I sat in a meeting a couple of months ago with Ms. Quintin at Burke,
right,
and leaders and Mr. Jeff Rory.
Oh, yeah.
And we talked about Stonyfield, and at that time, I thought it was moving forward. Here today, it's still not moving forward. So, I think City of Charleston officials are getting a little agitated. I know I am. The interest that they were supposed to redo for Burke, they were supposed to start on this summer. That has not been done. So, we need to kind of work on Burke, helping Burke out. I just learned the other day, at least 19 parents wanted to transfer into Burke.
Okay.
The constituent board in that district denied 19 parents for transferring their children into Burke. And I found out after 19, it was ended up told to be 30 over the course of a couple of months. And that board is not representation of Burke. So we got to figure out why they did what they did, put some policies in place to correct that measure. And that 19 to 30 kids could help Burke in this enrollment. But if there's a conspiracy to shut Burke down, when you look at that situation there, it doesn't help.
A lot of people who went to Burke High School know Burke High School might be asking, as we sit here right now, where is Principal Maurice Cannon? Where is he?
Well, Mr. Cannon is in Carlton County High School, sorely missed. I'm a little, distraught how they actually handled him. They moved him out of Burke, brought him down to the central office, put him in the corner, and all they did was pick on him. The brother was trying to get out of there, got frustrated, and finally God blessed him, and he got into Carlton County. But again, we talk about this diversity study, and we talk about what we want to do for African Americans. But if you can't treat all my people right, regardless of their skin color or their personality, if you can't treat them all right, that's a form of racism by itself. We had a number of African American principals in Charleston County did in the last 2 years. I just left an event the other day in North Charleston, with the Honorable Willie Gibbons. 13 pastors of the area were honoring him with our state president of the Baptist Association.
Right.
And those pastors asked me about our school district, and they heard little things about Mr. Cannon and several other principals that were moved around. And scratching your head, they're like, what's going on? If my superintendent, if she can't feel and understand the local pulse of our people around here, they'll stop listening to the mercenaries that are playing with your ego because they're trying to make you feel good. Yeah, get over there and talk to the people that you really need to talk to. Because I can tell you, those pastors have a lot of churches. They're talking about their own ticket. You got this thing called a coalition of kids. And people are agitated about that because here you have a new group, rich people, and they're trying to tell working class whites and working class blacks what's best for them. That's crazy. I'm a little bit more mature than when I first got on this board. And I'm beginning to understand. And we say this is about children. I have not seen anything yet that has been about children. I've seen all this about politics and money. And eagles.
And let me go over to really the future of the Charleston County School Board. As you know, there's an election coming up in November. Who do you want on the school board?
That's up to the citizens of Charleston County. You know, I got accused of putting together a slate. It was so funny. And I was just talking to Brother Pryor the other day. We were laughing. We are so connected in this county. I'm not going to turn my back on people that I grew up with. Mr. Pryor, Mr. Emmett Davis' family, the Fielding family. As you know, and folks were like saying, well, you in Fielding. Well, you know what? I didn't drag Fielding into any race. But I'm going to tell you the history between the Fieldings and Hollinsheds. My granddaddy, John Hollinshead, was a funeral director in Pelham, Georgia. The Fielding's grandfather, Mr. Fielding, was a started a Fielding funeral home in Charleston. As you know, back then, those black folks were connected. My daddy left the small town that we were in, that we grew up. I didn't grow up in, my father grew up in, and came to South Carolina during the big push at the Naval Shipyard. And the first person that he got into, when he got in, was the Fielding family. And the Fielding family knew his father. And they connected and they grew up together, and we grew up with the Fieldings. Just like I grew up with the Pryors. Right. You know, I grew up with other families in Charleston County. And I'm not going to shun my heritage. Danny Martin, right. Martin family. You know, that's our culture. But, you know, you don't shy away of people that you know. It just doesn't make sense, Quintin.
And I know that you're trying to make sense of the SC ready scores. Where is Charleston County School District on that list?
Well, as you know, I have my little cheat sheet here.
Okay.
The SC ready scores in Charleston County, since Dr. Postwick's been here, has plummeted. The only schools that actually have done good are the schools in the Mount Pleasant area. And as most people know, it's an assessment test of English and math. But the thing about it is that, you know, again, going back to what I told you earlier, most superintendents, when they come, we bring in from out of town. You know, we treat these people like gods, but what they do is they uproot the local people and get rid of them, and they bring their folks in. And so, even going back to Goodlow, you know, to McGinley, they uproot people, they retool, and then what happens to the scores is they kind of take a decline. Then at the end of their tenure, it kind of eases back up, but it doesn't ease back up to the significant gains. Then we go hire another dark superintendent, and then the superintendent then retools again. And then next thing you know, our scores plummeted. We have to come up with a plan of education in Charleston County that if we put Mickey Mouse in that seat, the system runs. That's why I'm more interested in a person of administratively, locally, to be the person that implements our educational policies in Charleston County that can touch and, you know, be a part of the community and put their pulse on it. You know, I'm not one to, you know, to sit out here and say, I know everything, but I do understand that. You know, again, like I said, I'm not interested in getting rid of our superintendent, but I'm interested in the future of Charleston County and who heads that up for the next 10 or 15 years.
To be continued. Kevin Hollinshead, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Yes, sir.